Welcome into America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates. Securities offered through Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Advisory services offered through the Retirement Guys Formula, a registered investment advisor. America's Retirement Headquarters, America's Medicare Associates, and the Retirement Guys Formula are separate and independent entities from Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Thanks for joining us here on America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates with Nolan Baker and Scott Kirshner, and myself. My name is Chris Swan. Like I said, we do appreciate you taking the time. On today's show, true or false, Medicare will pay for any healthcare needs. We're going to dive into what they will and won't cover. And we're going to hear from a stock analyst who warns that we're in the middle of a market bubble. We're going to talk about all these and more. You're going to have questions, and that is okay. Here is how you get those answers. Pick up the phone, give a call, 419-794-3030. That's how you get in touch, 419-794-3030. Or if you prefer, online at americasretirementheadquarters.com. Before we dive in, gentlemen, got to check in. Glad to be with you. How's your weekend?
Weekend's been great. Last weekend was fantastic. Got some good weather here in Northwest Ohio. So trying to get it in, before the season changes. There's only a couple left, but, trying to get outside and enjoy some stuff.
I can't believe it's the middle of August. Man, I love summer, and it just seems like we're getting busier and busier as we get older. But no, we're doing well. I agree.
It does blow by, and if you have kids, they'll agree summer has gone by very quickly. They don't want it to end either for different reasons.
Right.
But before we dive into the show, because obviously this is about getting people ready for retirement, and you guys obviously have the know-how, but you're also human beings, and there is something that has been in the news recently, and as a veteran-owned business, and Nolan, yourself having served in the Marine Corps, I wanted to get your thoughts on this, what's happening in Afghanistan, and actually to tie it into to finances. Is this something that should concern investors as well?
It is something that really definitely hits home, serving in the military. Of course, my brother also served in the Air Force and, was stationed at the Pentagon, a month before 9/11. So with the 20-year anniversary coming up, all that stuff rings home, and it rings home for a lot of people. When we look at it as a whole, I guess, looking at it, from the market perspective, one of the things about the stock market it likes confidence. It likes to know the direction of where things are heading. And I think this is just one more example of how people are really starting to lack confidence in the direction of, quite frankly, the leadership of this country. And to me, it's just another warning sign to investors to evaluate risk before something bad happens. I'd also say, history has shown us there's always a reason to be concerned about something. There's always something happening. This is not one of those things that you need to make a knee-jerk decision on, but we have to go back to the basics of where we're at in the economic cycle and the fact that the markets are at or close to all-time record highs. I think, the market can continue to do good, but it is one more example of why investors need to look at some of the risk that they have before something bad happens. And I think a lot of times investors, they, get too caught up into the news and what's happening. And I would encourage them to focus on things that they can control. So as an investor, can you control what's going to happen in the stock market? No, nobody can. If you can't control that, what an investor can do is they can control what level of risk that they're taking by evaluating their asset allocation in the portfolio. And there's, tools that we've talked about, and we can show people like Right Capital or Riskalyze that helps you evaluate what your risk is and, creating an investment policy statement. You can control how much predictable income that you get in your portfolio by selecting, companies that pay dividends or annuities that pay income and vehicles that are designed to provide income. You can control your fees and expenses. So, folks, looking at it from an investment perspective, focus on what you can control. Also, I do want to say a prayer. He may not hear this, but a good friend of mine, a scout who recently, became an Eagle Scout with my son Chase, left a few weeks ago down at Parris Island. He's at boot camp for the United States Marine Corps, and anybody that went to the Corps, you kind of remember those yellow steps of getting off the bus, and they really completely take the whole news and everything out of it. You're on your own island down there. So, unfortunately, he has no clue how the Middle East literally has fallen apart just in the last couple of weeks, but it's still great people like Chase that are ready to, defend and protect our freedoms that make this country so great. And the other thing I would say is if you're listening, if you are a veteran or if you know a veteran, again, I am the president for a local organization called Hooves. And, what we do is we use rescue horses to rescue veterans that are suffering from, mental challenges. And, this has really brought out so many mental challenges that we've seen with people reliving some of the experiences of the past 20 years for those who have served. I watched Trump speak on Fox News last week, and he really said it best. We needed to have conditions that were followed to get out of Afghanistan, to turn back over control. We needed to get the Americans out first. I mean, how on earth do you leave Americans behind and pull your military and then scramble to try to help get them back?
It's crazy.
You also have to support those who have supported us, those interpreters. And then you really need to blow up and destroy any equipment and bases that's going to be left behind. And, our leadership right now is just, kind of left Americans high and dry. So I get the feeling, you look at National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. He noted last week that the administration is in contact with the Taliban to try to ensure safe passage of the people to the airport. And, if you look at the news and what's happening, it was the president himself that just 6 weeks ago said, when they asked him if he trusted the Taliban, he replied, "No, I do not trust the Taliban." Another good example of how this is impacting local veterans. We got a post on Facebook here recently from one of the veterans that went through our Hooves retreat. And he says, quote, "Not gonna lie, I'm mentally hurting and struggling right now. Check in on me a couple times over the next few weeks, please." And then, it really chokes me up. You've got people who've, either died, maybe they've lost a brother or sister who've died, maybe a loved one, and maybe it was a child. Maybe they lost an arm or a leg. These things and images that are happening on TV are a complete failure from our government standpoint and letting people down that, 20 years we've been fighting for. So for those of you that are listening, if you are a veteran, or again, if you know a veteran that's having some challenges, again, what I would tell you to do is focus on what you can control. Maybe turn off the news and focus on what you can control. So maybe it's time to get back to the gym. Well, there's a local organization. It's called Task Force 20. Their website, tf20.org, helps local veterans who need to get a membership to a gym. Maybe get in the gym. There's nothing better than burning off some steam by pumping some iron. And I haven't been to the gym for a little bit, but I know when I was training for some of the mountain excursions that I did, it did help out a lot. I'd also say, Hooves, look at what we're doing. It's HOOVES.US. We have an upcoming retreat. It is for veterans and active duty military, that are struggling with what's happening. And also in direct response to what's going on with Afghanistan, we're also holding a virtual retreat where people can attend virtually and, get some feedback from our executive director, Amanda Held, who will give you some good advice on some steps that you can take to try to help out in your personal situation. And so, again, hooves.us, you can reach out to our office. I'll get you in contact with the right people and make some help. Also, I think about it, financially. I was thinking about the show, and I was like, well, what can we do as America's Retirement Headquarters? And one of the things that we can do is if you're an active duty or a veteran, for the first 5 people who call, if finances are an area that have you stressed out, give us a call. And what we'll do is we'll provide a year's worth of financial consulting and waive our consulting fee. Wow. So, I'd love to help hundreds or, even more. I'd love to help everybody, but we'll do that for the first 5 people that, are challenged. So if that's an area that's bugging you, personally call me, 419-794-3030. And if that's something that I can do to take a little bit of stress off of your plate, I'm just absolutely happy to help. And finally, I'd just say, for those of you who served, we love and support you. We got your back. We got your 6, as they say.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, and I want to add to that. I did not serve in the military at all or any of the branches, but I want to thank each and every one of you who have obviously fought and protected my rights. I have had the pleasure of attending a Hooves retreat. It's a phenomenal program. It's something that I highly encourage you to look into. If you are struggling out there, like Nolan said, if you are struggling, man, get the help. It's very important. It just kind of blows my mind the way this administration is handling this. And I don't want to go off on that tangent because that gets my blood boiling, but prayers to each and every one of our people and our allies out there that are trying to get home and get out of Afghanistan.
Absolutely. And, to echo, Nolan, what you said earlier, prayers to your son's friend Chase as he's over there in Paris Island. And again, it's all about being able to control what you can control. Right now, it's easy, very easy to feel powerless, to feel helpless, but focus on the things that you can control. And if you have questions about Hooves or about Task Force 20, or like Nolan so generously offered up there, if you're a veteran active duty or retired and you have questions about your finances, for the first 5 callers, a year's worth of financial consulting, waiving the consulting fee, a very generous offer, 419-794-3030. And again, thank you to all the veterans out there, all those who are continuing to serve, and hope you stay safe, both physically and mentally. 419-794-3030 is the phone number again. Now, true or false, when you retire, Medicare will pay for any long-term care needs that you have? Well, that is false. And unfortunately, a majority of baby boomers, well, they believe that it's true, so they're not planning for long-term care expenses. Guys, when you're working with couples, do they typically express any concern about how they're going to handle that kind of care?
You are absolutely correct. It is false. Medicare does not cover long-term care. And typically when I'm meeting with a Medicare recipient, signing someone up for Medicare, it's shocking to me the number of people that don't even address or think of it. That being said, I have had over the past 2 or 3 weeks, I've had 2 people that have actually, after I've met with them and signed them up for Medicare, that have asked questions about, well, what about long-term care? I don't want to deplete all of my assets if I have to go into a home. But that's kind of a rarity. Most people don't. When they do, it's when I'm going through the coverages and explaining to them what is and what isn't covered. That's where most people, their ears perk up, their eyebrows raise, and they say, whoa, wait a minute. Long-term care is not covered. So I go through a lot of the different coverages that they're going to get and some of the needs that they're going to have. This topic is kind of near and dear to me. It's something that I've actually talked a lot about with people outside of the office over the past couple of weeks. I've talked before on different shows last week even, I think, that we were talking about long-term care and like my mom, what I'm experiencing. And a lot of kids say, well, I'm never going to put my parent in a long-term care facility or nursing home, things like that. Well, I will tell you this. There's a lot of things you may say when you're younger, but when that time comes, things may change. And it's not because they don't love them. It's because it's stressful. 56% of baby boomers mistakenly believe that Medicare will pay for long-term care. And it's just not the case. Not the case at all. If you don't have a long-term care policy in place, you're kind of stuck with whatever you can afford to pay. Once you deplete your assets, then you are directed to whatever facility Medicaid will tell you to go into. And a lot of people don't want that. You don't necessarily want to be told where you have to go, especially as you age. A married couple, one of the 2 of them are more than likely going to need to go into a long-term care facility. And, those costs can be astronomical. You could be looking at $300,000 of long-term care for a married couple. And where's that money going to come from? It's either going to come from your assets if you don't have a long-term care policy put in place. So you need to be prepared for that. So one of the things that we do is there are several different types of policies available, and we've talked about this before, but you can actually purchase a life insurance policy that has some critical illness and long-term care riders attached to it. The old full-blown traditional long-term care policies are kind of not what they were years ago when people bought long-term care. So, it's situations where per day cost, you could be looking at anywhere from $6,000 to $9,000 a month for long-term care coverage. Think about that. You have your mortgage payment. We're living in a 2,500 square foot house. You may have a mortgage of $250,000, and you're paying $1,500. Taxes and escrows. You could be paying $2,000 a month for a house. You go into a long-term care facility, and it's $6,000 to $9,000 a month. That's a big number.
Yeah,
a big number that people aren't really prepared for. So it's very important to make sure you do your homework on long-term care. If you truly have an elderly family members that may have some health issues, a lot of it goes back to genetics. When we talk about Social Security and people ask about, should I take Social Security benefits? One of the things that we ask them is, well, what kind of genetics do you have? How long did mom and dad live? I just had an appointment this past week where I asked that very question because we're talking about a Medicare supplement versus an Advantage plan. And the one guy says, well, my mom's 92 years old. She's doing fantastic. I said, well, you've got good genetics there, so you may not need, all of that care. But if mom and dad were unhealthy and they had some health issues that were debilitating to them in their early 70s, long-term care is something that you should definitely be thinking about. So if you have any questions about it, if you have any concerns, you want to learn more, we're here. You can definitely reach out to us and, visit our website to get more information. But we are here to help and answer any questions you may have about long-term care and how to protect against your losing everything if you do go into a long-term care facility.
To explore all those different options, the different ways that you can account for the possibility or the probability that either you or your spouse are going to need some form of long-term care assistance, it's pretty easy. Just pick up the phone, give a call, 419-794-3030. Take into account all the different ways that you can. The worst thing you can do is to not account for it and then have that what am I going to do now moment if and when that time does come and you're forced to spend down your nest egg. So pick up the phone. I think it's a conversation worth having, 419-794-3030, or you go to americasretirementheadquarters.com. Now, as retirement investors, we understand our portfolio is going to rise and fall with the market. Of course, we all like watching it rise, but, well, what happens when those higher prices are no longer supported by the fundamentals? That's what economists call a market bubble, and we all know that bubbles can burst very suddenly. Investor Rich Bernstein tells CNBC, well, that's where we are right now.
I personally think we are right in maybe the biggest bubble of my career. People always say to me, okay, well, you're so smart. When's the bubble going to burst? And the answer is nobody knows. And that's the truthful answer. Nobody does know. But that's the reason why you have to diversify at this point. For the same reasons we carry a spare tire in our trunk, for the same reason that we have a fire extinguisher in our homes, that's the reason why you have to diversify. And when you get into a bubble, diversification becomes more important because we know the bubble is going to burst, but we don't know when.
So, guys, first of all, what do you think about what Mr. Bernstein said? Is he right? And if so, if we are, in fact, in a bubble, should that make any difference for those of us that are going to be tapping our nest eggs the next 5 or so years?
Well, we do have our economic summit that's coming up here in a couple of weeks, probably one of our most popular events that people attend. All the details and information, of course, are posted on our events page at America's Retirement Headquarters. And I think a lot of people come out to that event to try to see what our outlook is on the market. And we're always willing to share our outlook on the market, but at the end of the day, the market doesn't really care what our opinion is. The market's going to do what the market's going to do. I do know that simply the fact is that the market's had a long run. Mm-hmm. The prices that we see right now over the last year are, significantly higher than what we typically see during normal one-year market cycles. He talks a little bit about diversification. I think there is some, valid points to diversification. when I think of diversification, the historical context of that is, you put more money in fixed income or bonds as you get older and less in stocks. And I think of that as like a shotgun type of an approach, meaning that you take a shotgun and blast off a bunch of shots and hopefully hit something so more goes up than down. In the Marine Corps, you either hit your target or you missed. So it was either bullseye or zero. And when I think about it, what I would tell investors to do is I would tell them to take more of a sniper shot approach on what they're looking at. So for those people that are, 10 plus years out before retirement, don't worry about the stock market. Keep investing in your 401k. Keep saving. If the market goes down, maybe it doesn't feel good, but the reality is you're getting to buy more for your money while the market's down. It's actually a good thing. Those of you that are either 5 years till retirement or, within the first 5 years of your retirement, this is where the philosophy of what we call the independent income system, I think, becomes more crucial. So, I think the likelihood of a market downturn in the next 5 years is very elevated. So for those folks that are going to need some of that money to live off of in the next 5 years, or to position money to live off of the next 5 years, maybe that money should be, put in something that wouldn't be subject to big losses if and when the market went down. It's things like making sure that you have enough reliable income through Social Security optimization, pension maximization, maybe, annuity income to supplement that, cover the necessities that you have in life, maybe looking at a bucket of money that can be designed to give you a pay raise. I mean, if we look at the inflation numbers that just came out, the U.S. Wholesale inflation has soared to 7.8%. And has dramatically gone up. So inflation is roaring its way back, and it's good to have an account that's designed for a pay raise. Then for most investors, they can also still have a portion of their money invested for long-term growth. And long-term growth is still a great place to have money invested in equities. As long as you understand what you own and why you own that investment, the short term of the market just becomes noise, and long term, equities still can be a great place to have things positioned, for some great growth overall in the market.
I think everybody listening out there, and certainly here in the room, remember 2007. And I remember myself at the time, I had that mindset. I was like, well, I know this isn't great, but I'm still pretty early in my working career. I've got plenty of time to withstand the ups and the downs, but I remember the other side of the building that I was working at, where the more senior employees were, where they were getting closer and closer to retirement. They also had the notion that it wasn't great, but for different reasons, because they were getting ready to retire. And they did have that, what am I going to do now moment. We are all now, fast forward 14 years older and hopefully a little bit wiser, but certainly closer to retirement, I think. And what is the saying? Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Don't repeat that. Don't have the market go down and see your nest egg, see what you've accumulated so far, take that dive, and then have you take a really drastic look at what your retirement plans are going to be. Shore up your retirement plan right now. Go ahead and figure out how to minimize some of that risk, because it is all about saving. Saving is that pivotal first step when it comes to funding your retirement, but there is so much more to that. There is the market downturns, there is inflation, there is taxation, all these things that when you were in the working world, you didn't think about. And that is... Well, now's as good a time as any, and that is where America's Retirement Headquarters comes into play. 419-794-3030 is how you take that step to, as you get closer and closer to retirement, to know that when the next market downturn happens, it is not going to be as stressful a time for you as it could be. 419-794-3030 or americasretirementheadquarters.com.
So, that's a really good point. I'll just add that I remember when I first started working, and I'm a little bit older than Nolan and a lot of the guys here at the office, but I was always told, hey, just put it in there and forget it, just let it do its thing. Well, I'm knocking on 60, February I'm going to be 60 years old, and your mindset does change. I pay a little bit more attention now because I don't have the 25 years left to work. I mean, I guess I could, but I don't want to, Yeah. So I got to make sure that you pay more attention to it. Nolan, in the first segment, you mentioned something that I coach a lot of sports, and one of the things I always tell the kids was worry about the controllables. The controllables are your attitude and your effort when it comes to, your work, your sports, and that. But like Nolan, you said earlier, control the controllables. You can't control what the market's going to do. And, that's a great point. Don't get hung up on it. Don't worry about it, and just let the market do its thing. If you're close to retirement, give us a call. I mean, that's what I see. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, and I also say it's just like, with kids going back to school, with sports, they train, practice. Give the same training and practice when it comes to your finances.
Sure.
Don't be one of those investors that reacts after the fact. And, those people who made poor decisions of like selling and getting out of the market after a decline have oftentimes been painful lessons. So like you said, history doesn't always repeat itself, but it oftentimes rhymes. And get ready and run that practice and train for what could be ahead.
And the first step to that practice is picking up the phone and giving a call, 419-794-3030. Don't forget, if you are a veteran or active duty still, Nolan has generously offered up this week, if you're one of the first 5 callers, a year's worth of complimentary financial consulting. So if you want to take advantage of that, or if you know a veteran who you think would take advantage of that, give them the number 419-794-3030, and you can always find them online at americasretirementheadquarters.com. We want to thank you so much for joining us this week, as we do every week. Truly do appreciate you taking the time out of your weekend. Nolan and Scott, appreciate you guys taking time out of your weekend as well. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with the final word.
Well, I want to once again echo and personally thank all of the veterans and the military personnel out there for everything they do for us. And boy, stay safe and do what you can.
Yeah, I'd say, God bless you and God bless the United States.
America's Retirement Headquarters is located at 1700 Woodlands Drive in Maumee, Ohio. You can reach them by calling 419-794-3030 or online at americasretirementheadquarters.com. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate, and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Nolan Baker is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Please consult with your attorney, accountant, and/or tax advisor for advice concerning your particular circumstances. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Nolan Baker, Ohio Insurance License Number 27787.